What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to bring you a quick review of our new zero-turn mower. This is something we actually downgraded. If you saw back previously on my channel, I did a review of a ProTurn HD, which we had for about a year and a half, but I'm no longer cutting on the side of my commercial properties, mainly focused on my normal job, and we have another baby on the way, so it was a good time to give that up and downgrade mowers. So this is Gravely's ZTX line, which essentially is, this is a 52-inch. I'll kind of go over a brief little bit about the specs of it and then just get an initial review of it up. I've only had it for 1 hour. So, and I'm coming from a commercial grade mower, so this is Gravely's cheapest zero turn you can get. You can get it with a 52-inch deck and a different motor on it, and it will be a little bit cheaper. They usually range between 35 and 45 depending on how you spec it out and what kind of specs you may get on with it. But it's basically the cheapest dealership zero-turn mower you can get. You can get an Aries at Lowe's that's very similar to this, but I like getting my stuff at dealerships because then that warranty is basically tied to there, so you can take it there and get it serviced if you need to. I just think that that's a good feature. So go over a little bit of the specs. It's 52-inch deck. I actually wanted a 48, but they did not have any in stock and weren't planning on getting any in for a while. With COVID, supply restrictions, all that, they're still hard to get mowers right now, similar to cars. I got mine with the Kawasaki FR691V. This is their residential grade mower. Our motor, mainly because it only has one filter, doesn't have the dual filter system on it like my other one did. You can get it also with the Kohler 7000 series. I prefer Kawasaki motors, but I've also heard good things about the Kohler motor for these. They're both residential mowers, so they're not built for 1,000 hours like some of the commercial grade, like the Kawasaki FX series motors are. I think it's 23 horsepower. Yeah, 23 horsepower. 52-inch deck. Already said that. I don't know what gauge it is. I looked at Craftsman, John Deere, Toro. There was no Exmark motor or zero turns under like $6,000, so I couldn't go that route. Same thing with Ferris. Their stuff just was too expensive for what I need. I have a little under an acre, so I didn't want anything. I didn't want to spend a ton of money. I basically wanted to cut some cost, get rid of the other one, and get something a little bit cheaper. So it does have, I would say this is a commercial grade deck. I don't know what the fabrication is. 3 blades. It does hang on 4 spots, so it will hang here, here, and then the same thing on the other side. It will have a 4 hanging kind of floating design, which I think is beneficial. There's a lot of these that only have like one in the front, so you will run into issues where the deck will kind of go back and forth and sway some, and it's a pretty sturdy deck. Doesn't really give a whole lot of flex or anything with it. Would have preferred the 48-inch, but they just didn't have any, and they weren't going to get any in for a while, so I only had a handful of mowers to choose from. I did look at some riding mowers, but I just couldn't imagine spending $3,000 or $4,000. So this exact model here was around $4,000. It was a 52-inch deck and then the upgraded mower or motor. That's all I got. You can get like a mat for this, which you can get directly on Gravely, and it's pretty cheap. So I'll go over some good and positives. 7 miles per hour forward, 3 miles back, so it is not a fast cutting mower. I think some of the John Deeres that were in this price range were like 8 to 8.5, so they had a little bit better hydros in them than this. But overall, it's good enough for an acre or less. And okay, go through a little bit of specs. So you have 11-inch front casters here. This is a pretty beefy setup, if you ask me. You have pretty big caster arms. So if you look at the John Deere ones, they're pretty thin. They're almost half the thickness as that. The Toro was actually pretty similar. I didn't even know Toro made a lot of zero-turn mowers, but theirs are pretty similar. So you have pretty big pretty big front tires there. Just helps with absorbing the bumps. And the wheels on the actual deck are pretty good. They're much better quality than I was imagining. They're a little bit of a pain to adjust, so there's just basically a bolt back here, and you can move them around if you want to move them up or down, depending on what length you cut it at. The deck has a pretty simple system, which I like and don't like. So you basically push that up and then twist this little dial here to set it at what inch you want to cut it at. I think it cuts from 1.5 to 4.5. It's the only thing annoying is that it doesn't ever lock up, so you can't just lock it up in place. So typically I change this to 3 when I cut, but I don't like the deck hanging super low, so I change it back to 4.5 when I put it away. You have 20-inch wheels in the rear, which are pretty good for a commercial grade mower. Some of them do have 16 or 18s, depending on which model you get. So it has a pretty good. I would have liked for maybe a little bit wider, maybe 22s, but you had to get the HD model, which was about $2,500 cheaper or more expensive. So I didn't want to do that. Your gas tank, 2.8 gallons, which is plenty. I could probably cut 4 or 5 times with that without filling it up, so it's not too bad. You actually have a pretty decent size fuel filter if you look in there. I was kind of surprised at just how kind of big the fuel filter was, which is good. Helps keep the full. And then you got your tank there. This is one negative about these residential mowers, or at least some of them. You have a teeny tiny battery. From what I've read, and if you actually look at the size, you can actually put a standard, a little bit larger battery if you wanted to do that, like wanted to put a residential or not a commercial grade battery in there. I'll probably, whenever that needs replaced, put a little bit larger one in. And then the other negative, this is something that I kind of wish I would have looked into a little bit more, but this has one of the Hydro Gear transmissions in it. You have 2 of them, one on each side. These are not serviceable, so they're not as smooth as something that you can service. They are a little jittery, so it took me a little bit to get used to. But you had to jump up to a mower that was about $15 more to get the I think the Hydro Gear. These are the 2200s, I think, and the 2800s are the ones that you can service, or maybe these are the 2100s and the 2200s you can service. But so they are fully sealed, which I don't think they'll ever have to worry about them dying. But my big concern is it's not the smoothest riding mower out there. That would be our only complaint. So if you have a lot of bumpy terrain, there's a few things you could do. You could step up and get the XTZ X or XL model, which is does have serviceable transmissions in it. Or you can get a suspension seat. You can get an aftermarket, or you can get a suspension seat added on. I don't know what the cost is. I want to say it was like $500 though, or $400 to get a suspension seat. The seat does adjust forward and back. It's a pretty comfortable seat, but it is. I had a full suspension seat on my last one, so I'm probably spoiled in that regard. But it's a little rough, a little bit to get used to, especially if you haven't owned a zero turn. My other one was super smooth, the Pro Turn, but it also was twice as much as it was. I think it was $8,500 is what that retails at, and this one was about $4,000, so about half the price. There's no grease fittings on this, which is nice. So all your stuff, your seals down here are all sealed. Same thing with up here. They're all nice and sealed. Same thing with your spindles. I wish that this did lift up as easy as it used to on the other ones, but your spindles are all sealed. This does have a little bit weaker spindles on it than the HD model, which has a bigger belt and bigger spindles, but this is only going to cut about 0.75 acres each time we use it, so I like that. What else? Cup holders, it's got plenty of storage. I don't ever use that stuff typically. Sometimes I do, but it takes me about 20 minutes to cut our yard, maybe 25. I do like that these can be removed fairly easily. So this is what you will notice if you start looking at basically dealership commercial grade or residential mowers is that you'll be able to take these on and off fairly easily with just lug nuts. Some of the ones you look at Lowe's, like the Craftsman ones and stuff, these are not able to be taken off. You have armrests. I don't ever use them, but you do have pretty nice padded armrests here. The seat's really good quality for the price you got. Some of the ones I looked at Lowe's, the Craftsman and the John Deere, in a similar $3,500 to $4,500 price point, didn't feel as nice. This one seems a little bit more commercial grade, even though it's not rated as commercial grade, but it does seem a little bit more commercial grade quality. I do not like these arm things. They are really, really hard. They're really grippy, but they're just not very comfortable to actually use. My other ones were more of a soft touch material. This is really hard plastic or rubber, which actually has a lot of grip to it, but it's not very comfortable to use. I will have to adjust these. I like my arms a little bit lower, so I'll probably put them down. You can take them down a little bit there if you would like. Pretty happy with it so far. It gives pretty good fuel economy. I haven't had to put much gas in it. I've used it for about an hour. We've cut our yard 3 times with it, and it has done a pretty good job. I haven't had any issues with it. Hasn't got stuck. We do have a spot back here in the back that gets a little soggy, so I've never got a mower stuck in it, so that's good. It's got plenty of power and torque to get out of there. My only big complaint is just how kind of unrefined and jittery the hydros are. They're fine. They're just not the best quality out there, I think. Maybe that needed pushed in. Maybe that's why. But that's really it. It's easy to service too. You actually have your oil filter on this side, and then if you can see, I don't know if it'll let you, there's this little drain plug down here. Mine actually came with like a little rubber to connect to it, where you can drain it out through here. That way you don't get it all over the vehicle. So that's kind of nice. Let's see. That's really it. Pretty happy with it. I have not found any dealership that has discounted these at all. They basically sell for retail. I'm close to 2 Coing dealerships, a couple Buckeye, and a couple other. There's a Kubota dealership in this area, but basically everything I found was selling at sticker value. They don't really do the sales anymore just because of the supply restraint. There was not very many cheap mowers to buy when I looked at this, but so far fairly happy with it. I would have preferred a 48-inch deck or even a 44, but evidently in Ohio, where I'm at least my dealership said they don't really carry 44-inch. I guess that's mainly for the South, where stuff's really tight and smaller. At least that's what they told me. They told me they've never had a 44-inch Gravely in stock or carried it. So that's it. I will get a more long to review this up as I go. If you guys have any comments, questions, feel free to leave them below. I bought this from our local Koenig dealership in this area, and both of them are actually really good. So if you're ever in the southern Ohio area, there's a decent amount of Koenig dealerships that, at least the sales department, I've had really, really good luck with. The good thing about the Kawasaki motor, one more thing I'll mention, is that you can get the oil and the oil filter at Lowe's, which I like. So that's